east-southeast of Jacksonville, Florida, and 350 miles south of Wilmington, North Carolina. As of 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, Floyd at 29.3 north and 78.8 west. Again, 350 miles south of Wilmington, North Carolina, in an area that could, within about 24 hours, experience the landfall of Hurricane Floyd. Floyd still maintaining 135-mile-per-hour top sustained winds. Floyd is moving north-northwest at 14. And will a more northerly track develop today? Well, that's another question we will answer. Dr. Lyons will be back with the latest on that shortly. The pressure, 941 millibars. Here's the latest on the hurricane warnings still in effect. Fort Pierce, Florida to the North Carolina-Virginia border. And hurricane watch extends up to Chincoteague, Virginia, including the southern half of the Chesapeake Bay. For the upper Chesapeake Bay and from Chincoteague to Cape Henlopen, Delaware, a tropical storm watch has been posted. And also heavy surf advisories, first of all for the west and southeast coast of Florida, and also from Chincoteague, Virginia, all the way to Chatham, Massachusetts. In fact, earlier today already some high seas being reported on the outer fringes of Floyd as it moves in a northerly direction, so a long-reaching effect of the hurricane already. Well, early this morning, the Air Force Reserve hurricane hunters were completing another fix on Hurricane Floyd. This morning we spoke with weather officer Major Warren Madden, who reported on how far hurricane-force winds extend out from the center.
We found flight level winds exceeding hurricane force. We go out 105 miles on each leg, and we found hurricane force winds out pretty close to that 105 miles on the eastern leg, but not quite so far on the western leg so far.
Major Madden says the eye of Floyd is about 50 miles across, and yes, this is the same Warren Madden who is a meteorologist here at the Weather Channel. You see him here when he's not flying with the hurricane hunters. Well, let's go from a description of Floyd via the hurricane hunter aircraft to how it looks out in the field. We are going to get a first-hand view of what Floyd is doing in the Carolinas and Florida. We have Jeff Morrow in Charleston, South Carolina, and Jim Cantori in Melbourne, Florida. Jim, let's start with you. What's the latest?
Well, Rick, again, folks just breathing a wonderful sigh of relief this morning as this area has escaped the worst of Floyd. No doubt 140, 150 miles an hour yesterday when we saw those winds. No doubt everybody was shaking in their boots. But this morning, a nice calm breath. That does not mean that people that are in shelters or have made other arrangements that are off the barrier islands can return. As a matter of fact, the latest from the EOC is asking everyone to just put in their mind that they may not be able to get back until at least tomorrow, and perhaps even beyond that. There's apparently a new report of about 500 power poles down in Brevard County alone. This is what we had seen this morning in Indian Atlantic Beach. We had special permission to ride with the police officers this morning as they headed over to the beach. And as you can see, the wind-whipped rain really wasn't that heavy. We only had reports of about 1 to 2 inches locally. So heavy rain flooding was not an issue here in Brevard County. But what you wouldn't know if you look at some of these scenes this morning. Signs obviously damaged, and even this apartment building, which you'll see, had some problems this morning. So that's some of the biggest structural damage that our photographer Mike Forrester did see. So folks, again, stay put in the shelters this morning. Be safe, be patient. Let them get out and assess the situation. Try and get some of that power on. And now these winds are dropping below tropical storm force. That's going to be able to be done a lot sooner. But an area that hasn't really dealt with the worst of Floyd yet is up north in Charleston, South Carolina. Jeff Morrow's got a live report for us. Jeff?
All right, thank you very much, Jim. And just as you mentioned, things are improving slowly in eastern parts of Florida. However, here in the low country of South Carolina, it is just starting, and it's been raining ever since we got up at about 5 o'clock this morning, and have been reporting to you every half hour here. And the rain has been pretty steady. It's not all that terribly heavy yet, and the wind is not all that strong either. Wanted to point out where we are. This is a marina here right off the Cooper River, right across from downtown Charleston. And I want to point this out because when Hurricane Hugo came in back in 1989, the water, the storm surge came up to a point which was roughly about this high on this roadway. Now, that doesn't appear like it's very deep on this road, but what those boats are about 5 to 6 to 7 feet down below me. So the surge came up here into this harbor about...
And the question is it North or South Carolina? It's sort of heading right toward the border. Let's look at the latest infrared satellite imagery here. I put a dot on where the system was at the start of the loop down here, and a dot on where it is right now. And if you drew a continued line there, it would go right into Charleston or very close to it. But we do expect it to take a little more northward turn through time. So here's the track so far. We could continue that on and take a more northward turn. It's too early to tell exactly where landfall is, but all of these areas need to be very, very cautious about what's happening here because the circulation is very large. And associated with that large system, we have this big trough of low pressure that's pulling it off to the north and then off to the northeast. And of course, the rainfall ahead of it has already been significant. Of course, in the right front quadrant relative to landfall is where most of the tornadoes occur. But with this upper level trough here, the turning of the wind with height is such that it's allowing the tornadoes to occur also on the northern half, very close to the north part of the center. So severe weather is a potential. But we do definitely think it's going to continue on up into the Carolinas, and it'll landfall probably early tomorrow morning, starting to accelerate just a little bit. And so the timing is not absolutely certain, but we think that Thursday morning is a general time frame. It's rather critical relative to the tides. Right now it looks like the tides will be neutral or going out. In order for it to hit it at high tide, it would have to accelerate to an average speed of 27 miles per hour, which we think is nearly impossible, or at least highly unlikely right now. But keep in mind, look at the area of tropical storm force winds and hurricane force winds, very large. So you need to be prepared for hurricane winds anyway, whether you get hit or not. We look out for the northeast as well for that heavy rain coming your way. Now let's get back to the studio.
Okay, Steve, thanks a lot. Don't forget, if you cannot join us here on the web.